course, if you went to Hayburn, you would have seen them. They called it team building. We played a little round of dodgeball. That was kind of fun. Little brain break before they went back and collaborated around their data and instruction. So this is a couple of my dogs, and there's my parents. And I shared these two slides on our professional development day with the staff. Just remembering that sometimes this time of the year can be stressful. You know, they got the endless to-do list, getting ready for conferences and whatnot. And so one of the things was just look around, look across the room, look across the table, and just remember that you're a part of a big team, St. Mary's SD41. And also think of things that you're thankful for in life. And so I shared, for me, it's faith and family. And the third one, I told Craig, Tef, it's not football, but it's work. And those are my 3 areas of gratitude. So my family is my 2 dogs here, Chloe and my new one, Duke. And my parents, who we got a chance to relocate pretty near each other. And it's my mom's birthday, 82, and my dad, 85. And they're on this earth, and they're still very healthy. Yeah. And the third one was work. I've been a teacher or in education for 32 years, and just a part of who I am. And I'll talk a little bit more about what education means to me. So that was a little bit of our professional development. Then we went into what an opportunity the professional development is for a principal and a superintendent when they get to bring the whole team or the whole staff together, or almost, and be able to have a time to talk and remember they're a part of a team, but also to share in a common direction and revisit the mission and direction, revisit our goals, revisit some data points where our kids are at, and talk about some of that priority work on how we're going to continue to see them improve. It's a pretty high leverage moment. And I had a chance to share, and it's something I shared at the public forum. Josh already heard it. Paul's already heard it. But we talked about, you'll see this vision right here. It's kind of the vision I've had in my entire 32 years of being in education. It probably got a little more sophisticated, or I started to understand a little better. And when I talk to different people, or you hear people in St. Mary's kind of share what is the vision they have for kids, you often hear something very similar, that we want to give our kids the knowledge in the social studies, science, math, language arts, that through electives or a CTE class or an extracurricular, we want to teach our kids a skill, so that when they walk across the stage, whether they go on to higher education or enter the workforce, they're successful. You also hear a lot of talk for the extracurriculars, particularly sports, right? In some tonight, you heard business, you heard music. And for me, I played a lot of sports. And my mom was a music teacher, so I have to tell her I'm so sorry. That music just was not in me like it was in my mom and dad, and I did more of the sports thing. But that's where I learned a lot of confidence, and that's where I learned how to play with the team. And I remember in basketball, like I couldn't go on the basketball court and be in a man-to-man zone or be in the man-to-man defense, and some of the players were in a zone defense and think we're going to win. Or in football, we have a lot of coaches on the sidelines, and you have a lot more players, and probably a lot of differences. But there had to be some trust there when the coach is on the sideline calling the play to the quarterback. And then you have the quarterback calling the play, snap the ball, and you need the players. They can't be running a different pattern than the play. That was just called if they expected to win and be champions. And so for winning in St. Mary's is reaching this vision for our kiddos. And part of being able to reach that vision is looking at the stats, looking at our data, and looking at some of the action steps we're going to take, which I like our playbook, so that we're working as a team, so that we can reach this vision and mission for every single one of our kids. So there's some of our stats, right? It's really important to always know where our kids are at, where our kids headed, and then what are some of the steps or programs we're going to put in place to see them continue to improve and achieve. And you've seen this before. So for literacy, if we have between 43 and 55% of our kids at or above level compared to the state. And about 80% of our kiddos at graduation rate, which is kind of where the state's at. Add this new one is math. So about 28% of our kiddos are at or above grade level in math. And there was a high in kinder and first grade, there was a high level of kiddos with their number sense. So that's a highlight in terms of coming in with some math sense and counting abilities. Growth is going to be really important that the staff and I talked about. About 50% of our kids are growing at an adequate level. The state defines that as based on when they're at right now. If they continue to grow at that level for the next 3 years, they'll be at grade level or above. So 50%, that's a pretty decent mark. Now, staff and I really talked about adding a growth data point to see 80% or more of our kiddos, of course, striving for 100, that grow 1 year or more in their math and language arts. And you heard Principal Carson talk about that. To motivate students, to energize staff, to really pay attention to that growth, because that's progress for each student, rather than comparing themselves to each other. And then knowing that if they continue to grow 1 year or more, that day is going to come when they are at grade level or above by the time they walk across the stage. So what some of our plays, so that we see our kids continue to grow and achieve. It's a little small, but under each of I listed 4 of the 5 goals. The 5th one is a lot about the operations and the finances. So the staff and I really looked at this on Friday. We want to see 10% more of our kids reach at level or above. And then the growth, we want to see 80% or more grow 1 year or more. So we're paying attention to good instruction, and we'll go more into that in a few slides. You hear a lot of the principals talk about the interventions that they run during class time to work on certain skills. And at the high school, looking to expand some of the CT programs. Bless you. And then in terms of continuing to support students and feeling safe at school and like they belong, they have school-wide expectations, particularly around their behaviors. And you heard some of their student of the month character traits: being polite, being friendly, making responsible, respectful choices. There you go. The next one is tied to goal 3 there, knowing that partnering with the parents and families is really huge to see our students be successful. And these are some of the many ways that St. Mary's is looking to continue to work with our families. And this is some more of the ways we're just looking to really communicate, both inform and get input with our families. So tonight we heard the patrons had comments or questions, and then we'll look to either answer those later on in the agenda during the discussion. and or I've been reaching out to follow up with patrons after the board meetings. We're responding to public record requests. What's not on here is that strategic plan that I just shared, and I shared with the staff at our professional development on Friday. Those goals and that strategic plan usually last 5 years, and then we revisit it, as you know. So this is the 5th year. So while the goals often stay the same, those performance targets and the student data, the stats, and some of the plays that we're going to use to continue to see the kids grow will change. So we're looking in January and February to have some of those staff meetings and some of those family meetings where it's an opportunity to share the strategic plan and also get input on the strategic plan, where we can make some of the, what do we want to stop, what do we want to add, what do we want to refine. And particularly one staff member had mentioned, hey, let's just relook at that vision and mission and see what adjustments we might want to make to that. And so she was like, oh, perfect. That's happening in January, February. Yes, it is. So that'll be happening. And that's a big, huge way to engage and partner with families. I was going to say something else, but this goes back to that teaching and learning and some of the research-based strategies. You'll hear staff often mention John Hattie's research and some of the strategies that have a high impact on kiddos. And as the principals and the staff, and I just continue to talk, Peen talks about him, his staff having the 5 by Gods, like make sure you have these strategies when we come and visit your classrooms. And so the principals and I are just and the staff are spending some time talking about what are those big, important strategies that we'd like to see teachers be able to use with all K-12 classrooms and support that student learning. And so these were a few examples, like the learning outcome, like what do you want the kids to know and be able to do for the day? Like solve 2-step equations, for example. And then at the end of the lesson, you go back and visit and be like, hey, kids, let's check on how well we did at solving 2-step equations. And then that middle part is often when you're kind of teaching or modeling, like I saw a first grade teacher with her little first graders, and she showed a little video on how to factor doubles. And that was like her way to teach a model. And then they did a lot of practice together. And then at the end, be like, well, let's see how we did on solving our little equation or finding our doubles. So stuff like that. The other thing I want to say about teaching and learning, kind of the reason for school districts. And I try to model the emphasis that we want to place on teaching and learning because we know that's where we're going to be effective. I try to model that in this superintendent report so that the most of the slides are talking about teaching and learning. And at the staff development on Friday, we had all the different department managers and directors there, and they each kind of shared how the operations of their departments are going, because the idea is the finance and the food service and the maintenance and the transportation is running smooth and efficiently. Why? So that it frees up the teachers and the students to be able to focus on teaching and learning. And we know from anything we read, to be effective board, superintendent, school district, we really got to focus on teaching and learning. And so I want to kind of model that here. And that's why I want to propose a slightly different procedure on amending policy. I just want to talk about it tonight, but not have it start till January. And I know the idea behind the 3 readings has been, so there's a lot of time to study, research, look at statute, look at other school districts, answer questions, get input from patrons to make necessary revisions. with the end game being we wanted the policy to be legal, and you've heard me share, and we want it to work for St. Mary's, kind of like Miss Darnold shared tonight. We also want to, because there's over 1,100 policies, so we want to be thorough. We also need to be efficient. And the amending of policies is starting to really eat away at our board meetings, and it's taking away from the focus on teaching and learning. And we also need those policies. They're there to guide us, governance, safety, parent rights. So what I'm proposing is that we start in January, not till January, a little superintendent policy committee. And it would look a little bit like what the library review committee was. We formalize it where we have, a couple patrons, bless you, a couple staff members, and myself. And we can take 3 to 5 policies and do just what I talked about, have time to vet it. It's two-way conversation compared to a board meeting. It's time to study, look at statute, look at other school districts, answer questions, share concerns, talk about revisions, get it in a place where it's legal and it seems to fit the values of St. Mary's, and then bring it to the school board for a reading. And the school board has been elected to represent the 1,000 students and their families. It's an opportunity for public to hear about it. And then if it's in a good place, look to vote on it. So that's where I'm leaning, and that's why, just to get back to a real strong focus on teaching and learning, and right alongside having our policies work for St. Mary's and be legal. And I think we're going to talk about it more on one of the agenda items as well. Switching gears really fast to some calendar of events. It may be my last slide. Yes, I want to make sure. So we have the election results, and I just want to acknowledge our 3 new board members that will be taking oath in January. Paul Soton in Zone 3, I think he's here. Josh Harvey for Zone 4, Josh, and Seth Stoke for Zone 5. He was here. I get it. I totally understand that. So I just wanted to acknowledge our elections. And I shared a little bit about our Veteran Day celebrations throughout the schools, and I got to see most of them, and it was nice. I know Paul Sultan was there at Hayburn. Thank you. Book fair, I just want to speak to a little bit to that. And it's starting this week at the 2 elementary schools and the middle school. The parents work hard on the book fair, long, hard hours. And while it is scholastic right now, there was 3 different meetings with principals and staff and myself to make sure we had a really good safety net of procedures in place to watch the content restrictions so that it matched and aligned with St. Mary's, and honor the intent behind a book fair, which is find fun, age-appropriate books to get into the kids' of the hands and the families. One, to support their reading, but also just to enjoy the enjoyment of reading. And then we did look for some different companies, and we're going to continue. Go ahead, Beth.
So I'll take it from here. So first of all, Jenny, we are on the same page, and I am so glad that you got to reread the definition of harmful to minors instead of me, because that's a really awkward thing to read. So I had it all printed out. So I wanted to thank you for reading that, because I was going to read it again tonight, but I won't have everybody suffer through reading that twice. So Scholastic, I've had huge problems with it. We had a demonstration of a book that got into a young child's hand over Labor Day weekend that had nothing to do with the school, but it demonstrated many of the important things that are being found in Scholastic books more and more and more. Scholastic did get pressured, and our book fair was able to request this fall in their system of a opt-in, opt-out of their controversial LGBTQ plus and racially diverse books. You could opt out of that.
Did we?
Yeah.
We most certainly did.
This is hosted by the PTO, by the way.
It is. This is not a school
Yes, this is
function.
part
This
of the
is
meeting.
PTO. And again, I want to jump on board with Dr. Wrench. These programs, I've volunteered. I've worked with in schools. It is amazingly difficult to get people to organize volunteers for a project of that size. The number of hours, phone calls, paperwork, learning new systems, dealing with it. It is amazing, and they really do deserve a round of applause for it because it's a huge undertaking. And their care and concern is just as great, and they are also extremely concerned. However, with that, on October 25th, after being pressured by the extreme left and the LGBTQ community, Scholastic apologized to them and reversed their decision for having the opt-in, opt-out controversial package of books in their book fairs. From now on, you get it all. So I will be making a formal request in December on the agenda to distance ourselves, cut ourselves off from Scholastic, because they have chosen and they have doubled down and they have made it very clear that it is their intent and their mission as a corporation to get books of LGBTQ content equating to the content of harmful to minors, the statutory definition, which I brought up when I introduced the library policy also. And in accordance to the state of Idaho's House resolution, which emphasizes, and Jenny brought that up again, which I had brought and introduced into the library policy. So in December, we will be putting it on the agenda to distance ourselves from Scholastic book fairs. Fortunately, on the upside, because we live in a free market society, there are more book fairs coming online.
Can I speak for just a moment
Mhm.
on this subject? So the PTO has looked for other organizations that bring
They did.
programs like the book fair, right? And the only reason why we're sticking with Scholastic is they're the only ones that bring it to that degree. And also, our PTO extensively goes through each book that goes on the shelf. Also, we
And the
do not, we don't push any books on any student, and we always accept returns, 100% and as much as everyone else wants parent involvement in the schools and wants them to have parents to have the final say, we want that in the book fair as well. So if you're sending your kid with money for the book fair, it is up to you to make sure you know what they're purchasing. We send out lists. Parents are always welcome to come to the book fair. So how can I help you?
Okay, thank you. I'm going to have to
perfect.
limit that.
Yeah,
So on that though,
Thank you.
we are the hosting force for it on our property. So it will become an agenda item for discussion. Like I said, Scholastic, that was now. You will be getting all of their good stuff. All of their good LGBTQ. which if you need to look it up and see what will be coming, you can. It's very blatant online. And to expect volunteers and staff to vet and go through each and every one of those books, because it doesn't always come with a title. It doesn't come like TV shows. It doesn't come like movies. It doesn't say what the content is. There's no federal rating system on children's literary books. And until that day, I don't know how we can trust an organization that has come out so clearly and so blatantly. And the book that started this whole process back on Labor Day, that content didn't show up in that book until halfway through the book. And there's children's books that are aimed for 0 to 8 years old that are insidious, that just feed just the littlest ideas, just get them starting to think that it's normal concepts, that it's more normal talk, and it just keeps ramping up as the children get older and older and older. There are other ones. There is a new one that I just heard of the other day. I'm not saying that it's going to be what it is. It's called Skytree. They have a reward system like Scholastic. They have, they're kind of small right now. I think it's 500 books. But because we live in a free market system, more and more of these things are going to be coming online, because we're not the only school district that is up for it, just absolutely floored by this. No one wants this stuff in our children's hands. This stuff is disgusting. Where's that paperwork that Jenny passed out? Let it filter through the audience. It's disgusting.
This one?
Yeah, that one.
Yes, that one. Let it filter through the audience.
We have 2 volunteers very diligently working.
I'm not accusing anyone, Suzanne. I'm not
Let's bring it.
accusing
Let's bring it.
anyone.
Yeah.
I am not. I am the last person to accuse anyone. And this book fair, I went to the book fairs today. I went upriver. I went here in town. And the one here, they're adorable. You've done a great job laying it out. And I hope that the students and the kids have a great time this week. I'm not condemning a thing. I don't want to be a book Nazi.
All right.
That's the whole purpose of it, is to get books into kids' hands. But on the other side, I'm just letting you know that I will be introducing a discussion to distance ourselves from Scholastic and to search for a new one.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
I just-
Go on here.
Yeah, just conferences are this Friday. They're starting Thursday evening or Friday. Parents and families are getting information from the schools, elementary and the middle school. High school has an e-learning day that they'll be setting up and communicating with the families. They will also run a few conferences as well and reach out to families. Of course, then you got Thanksgiving break. And that's almost a wrap. There is one more announcement that came in late today. So many of you know, and I really wanted Chris Asbury to be here to make this announcement. We've been working on a big, over $1 million grant, CTE grant, that would let us expand, build a structure at the high school, and start 2 new CTE pathways, which addresses our vision for skills for our kiddos. One would be auto mechanic repair, and the other one would be forestry. 2 huge high demand needs in greater Idaho, and particularly right here in St. Mary's. I haven't run past a local business person that hasn't said, please, what are you doing in the school, high school, to help graduate some skilled workers? And what can we do to help? So since August, Pina and I have been writing this grant to get a new structure, 2 new C2 pathways for almost $3 million. And today at about 3:00, we got a letter from Superintendent of Public Schools, Debbie Critchfield, St. Mary's School District 41 has been awarded that grant.
All right, good job. Good job.
Good job.
A lot of work went into
A lot of work went into that.
Yes, it did.
A lot more work than I
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Will the building be built someplace? Where? Right by the high school?
Yeah, the plan is there's a CTE building right now across from the gym where we have welding and wood shop. And so parallel to that, we are looking to build another structure that will be able to house the auto mechanic and the forestry pathways.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome.
yeah, with that said, I sat in a meeting last week in Coeur d'Alene at Idaho Forest Group's office on Canfield with Carl Crabtree. Oh geez, there's Debbie Critchfield. She was on Zoom. There was
Allison,
Allison, yeah, and Tom Schultz with IFG, Marie Price with IFG. Oh, Trevor Stone from Potlatch, and there's quite a few more on there. But anyway, to try and set curriculum for the forestry end of it and truck driving and that sort of thing. And Carl was pretty adamant about let's get going, let's start getting things hammered out. So it is on its way to start getting in the works here. I don't know if it'll be ready for second semester this year. It'll probably be 2024, 2025. But I did have quite a discussion with Allison about our situation here, and she spoke very highly of our superintendent, Teresa Ranch, of how good she was to work with, how just a driving force with there. Answered, a lot of tough questions. So anyway, thank you for the great effort. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
me and Asbury and the state worked very collaboratively with us. So we're very excited. I know the local businesses will be super excited to hear the news. And the students
Yeah.
are gonna really benefit from this opportunity.
And that parent that was here at that,
Yes,
Last
I have his
workshop?
number. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
you
He's
gotta
gonna
let him
help out.
know.
He's coming in as
So
a guest
excited.
speaker. Oh, yeah.
Call him, yeah.
You bet I am. Chuck, yeah, Jack Buell,
he'll be so
potlatch,
excited.
I'll say,
We got a
name it.
job for you.
Yeah,
That's
we've
good.
got kids coming your
Oh,
way.
yeah.
Good
Yeah.
to hear. Good to hear. All right, moving on to K, Idaho School Board Association activities. Civility and Communication Workshop, November 1st. That was an outstanding workshop. I enjoyed every bit of it. I would like to do another one. for the fifth.
Yeah. There's more pieces to that,
Yes,
is what I understand. So,
so
and
anyway.
there's a grant funded, so it won't cost the district any money.
I guess the biggest thing, my notes got written in here. The biggest thing takeaway for me was everybody's going through something, and people like to be heard and understood. Those are some of my biggest takeaways.
Yeah, you can agree to disagree.
Yes, you can. You
Uh,
must be able to do that.
And let's see, 2023 ISBA Annual Convention. Tomorrow will be the traveling day. And Wednesday, Thursday, half of Friday. And there's a jam-packed workshop. So I would, yeah, it's always a pleasure to go to it. All kind of stuff you learn. Let's see, April 22nd, 23rd of 2024, Idaho Education Law Seminar. There's another important one to go to.
Working on your calendar, boy.
Yep. The Anderson and Jillian Hall, the education lawyers, spend 2 days telling you what you're liable for and all kinds of stuff. And you come back and you think, oh my gosh, what what are we in for? But it's very, very informative. So, moving on to L, student enrollment and student discipline.
That tab is in, well, obviously,
L.
tab L. That document is in tab L.
Can I have a request?
Yeah.
Bigger font?
Miss Wicks, you want to borrow my bifocals?
Maybe you need new glasses. This is your
No, I'm
second
all right with glasses,
request.
it's just I don't want to put them on.
You borrow my bifocals. So
Oh,
you get this
ouch.
little line. So you saw September enrollment, and now, well, we jumped and have November enrollment. So overall, you see that our enrollment dropped a little from 953 at the start of the year, and now we're sitting at 923. So we lost about 30 students. Most of those students, you'll notice, were from the high school. And so I did talk to the counselor a little bit and the high school principal, if they just noticed any trends. Doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, but could they dig a little deeper into the information for me? And they did. So there's about 14 that either moved or transferred schools and moved. And 6 or 7 that are now in online learning. And a few, oh no, I'm sorry, closer to 12 to 15. So the other half, basically, went to online learning. A little less than, well, half. And if a couple kids that are on the dropout list, and we're just looking to locate where they're at, or get confirmation that they've enrolled in another school. So you got about half who've transferred or moved. And then just a little less than the other half are online learning, and a couple who have dropped out. We're just trying to locate where they might be, or if they enrolled in another school. And that's item L.
But the disciplinaries.
Oh, sorry.
Start to
Discipline.
pick up there.
Yeah, and that goes a little bit to the talk of October. The to-do list grows. Some behaviors start to emerge after the start of the year. And I think you heard several of the principals and just talking about revisiting the behavior expectations with staff, and staff being able to have a chance to revisit the school-wide behavior expectations with the kiddos. It's a perfect time for conferences, because that can be part of that partnership between the family and the school, and that necessary behavior of respect and responsibility and being safe so that the learning can happen. And then you hear the middle school and the 2 elementary schools a lot of time recognizing with their little, what are they called, Suzanne? Not panther bucks, but the
Oh,
Jack
Jack notices?
Yes, and the Jack notices, and then at Upriver, the panther bucks, where they're recognizing students very specifically for certain behaviors, or whether it's making a responsible choice or being friendly or being polite.
All right. Moving on to M, board policy reading and procedures.
I took your thunder on that one.
Yeah,
All right,
I guess you,
but feel free.
so we'll hopefully have a new procedure come January. Moving on to N, second reading and review of board policies. Board policy 60216, library materials.
I think 60216 and 60217 and 60218 have stayed the same from the first reading to the second reading.
Yeah, I would say that you can look at what Danielle Lynch presented tonight and see.
Oh, so I was gonna clarify that at the parent rights reading.
That's more
Okay.
on the parent rights than
Yeah.
on the library. I think
That-
these
Yeah, I
are-
think they're different, yeah.
I have an answer to that, and
I
there was
thought we
another
did.
patron and myself, and we might just want to reword the parental rights. It's very confusing how we wrote it. The exception is that with sex education, if a family opts out, they don't have to come up with an alternative assignment.
Right.
That's why it's the exception, but it's not well written.
Oh, I
That's a
see what you're
mother's
saying.
day. Right, I knew that.
Because it's not a required,
Right.
they don't have,
Content
right, oh,
class, so
right,
if they want-
right.
So if you're gonna opt out of like a very specific unit in like a US history class, for example, then the district would want to work with the families about what's that alternative program gonna be. The exception is sex education. So if parents don't want to be in sex education, the school will find an alternative task or assignment. But I can reach out to her to explain that.
All right, moving on to third reading and review of board policies. Board policy 50414, administration of medication by school personnel.
Which one are we on?
That was suicide.
Yeah.
Let's see.
We have to separate.
Struck language.
Are we on O right now?
Yep.
Yes.
Suicide, 50416.
Yeah, I don't have that one.
Yep.
Thank you.
504, yeah,
It's not here.
it's not here.
She's got it for us.
I knew she would.
Can't get anything by you, huh?
Pens. Sorry, they're just sticky notes.
So that,
We were still kind of looking, yours is good.
that mine's good.
If it's in there, 50414, this one. Yep.
Okay.
We put yours.
I had mine, okay, right.
You got the model book. This is long. Remember this one? So really the change,
Final vote, will that be the final vote?
No.
No, this is.
we're just
reading.
discussion right now.
Excuse me, third.
Oh,
reading,
this is
sorry.
third.
Discussion.
This one, really the updates were that there's just some more medicine in the policy now that didn't used to be in there, like epilepsy. Diabetes was already in there, and other seizure disorders is mentioned now. The inhaler for asthma. And the opioid overdose with fentanyl being more prevalent than it used to be. So those increase in medicines were added, which just means the same procedures are still in place, that if a student is going to administer their own medicine, you have to have the physician doctor note, you have to have the parent note, and there has to be a plan in place.
Right, so nobody's administering medication without parental consent.
Correct.
Where's and proper training.
Right.
Yeah, so for example, if you're on page 6, if you're administering medicine to students, employees, they would be trained, like Upper River had a group of teachers that were trained on how to use the EpiPen because they had some students that might need that. So a licensed practitioner from Panhandle trained them. Then their medicine is stored at school. There's an action plan on how you would administer the medicine if you need to. There's a parent note and a physician note on file.
So would the glucose or the diabetic medicine be in a cooler? Or
Yeah,
freezer or,
sure.
I mean, refrigerator?
Exactly. Emergency medicines. Well, I made some changes to that with Tana, and I don't see those in here right now. So we made some changes to the emergency section.
Do we have,
We struck it.
excuse me, do we have,
with the calling 911. Go ahead.
do we have the, opioid emergency medicines on hand already?
They are, there's like a little kit that's attached to the wall somewhere in the school building. And many teachers were trained, although you can't do any harm if you
No.
get the Narcan.
Right.
Many teachers were trained last year. And we did talk about finding a date with Panhandle to provide new staff or review in the near future
Mhm.
with the Narcan. So I made some updates to that emergency section based on, I don't know if you remember last time, one of our patrons had some questions and requested some revisions on the emergency section. I don't see those in here, so when we get,
Table.
when we get to the vote, we'll just table it.
Mhm.
So we'll move on to 50416 suicide prevention.
There hasn't been any changes or updates to that one.
Is that the second reading also?
This is
Third reading.
We're in the third reading for suicide prevention.
Yeah, all these
Come on.
third reading.
So at this point, they're open for discussion still.
Um,
Sandy, I know you had a question about rearranging some of the steps of prevention versus intervention versus postvention.
Right, we kind of,
And I just was like, they're all gonna happen and they're all in need.
right, and I, right. When I went through that, yeah, I would maybe do this differently, but I do see how they did it, so it's fine.
Yeah. I figure it's pretty comprehensive and
Yeah,
all the
it
steps
is.
are gonna happen.
I would, yeah.
So you're good with that one?
Yeah.
Okay, board policy 50417, student health, physical screening, examination.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. We got an updated one on that. So one of our patrons had mentioned some revisions today, and so we have some of those revisions. So, and I'll point out a few things and concerns. And remember that it's still in draft form at this point. Yeah, thank you.
Are those the same ones that are over here on the table for us? They are.
Yes.
They are, thank you.
So,
I would take out 5.
so, and we can, just
Why?
I know it's gonna be a discussion, right? It's still a draft form to listen to the proposed, revisions and hear the concerns. And if you look on page 2, it talks about no immunizations except for parent guardian consent.
Correct.
So that seemed to align to 5. It's up to you.
I think that offering, if we choose, and I don't really know if we have done this.
I was gonna say, do we do this? I mean, has it been done? I don't
No,
remember
Panhandle
my
said,
kids getting their immunizations here.
no, Panhandle said they're very cautious. They just said it would be a service they would offer. If it was a need, like at the start of the year or mid-year, the parents wanted that, because there's certain immunizations at certain grade levels to be in school. Of course, you have the waiver that you can opt out. So it hasn't happened.
That you have to opt in is fine, that you have to give permission, but if they're willing to do the immunization clinic.
Yeah.
That's, so that it's convenient for their kids to get an immunization at school.
Mhm.
I think parents can agree to that. I think you can prevent the 14-year-olds, I mean, it has to be with parent permission.
Correct.
All the way up to be 18.
Yeah,
Up to 18 in the
That's how
school
our
district.
contracts read.
Right.
It would have to be opt-in.
Yes.
Yes, it would
And
have to
on
be
page
opt-in,
2, it
not
reads
opt out.
And not opt
correct.
out.
And on
Opt-in.
page 2, it reads opt-in.
I think we should recognize that, 80% or 90% of parents get their kids immunized from measles, mumps. I mean, all of those routine immunizations. And I remember when my kids were young, they did have those clinics, it would be who's got their immunizations, and there would be an opportunity that you could sign up and you could have your child get those immunizations at school. And I think if parents opt in and it's restricted to those, all parents have to opt in up to age 18, we wouldn't want to prevent that from happening, would we?
Jody, you had a thought? Terrell?
Well, I think it should be parents' choice,
Yes, it would be parents' choice.
but and then there's a lot of people that can't afford the immunizations or they don't even know what they are. And so maybe some education to the parents that they got. But I think it should be parents' choice. If they don't want to get immunizations, that's fine with me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not sure what I think about having immunization clinics here. Because like Jody said, parents need to have a chance to be able to talk to a physician privately about their family's, medical history and all of that. I mean, are we a clinic or are we a school? I don't know.
Well, I think that if you were going to sign your child up to get an immunization at school, you would have done that exploration ahead of time. You would
just
have
don't-
already
I
figured
ju- I
out if
just
you
don't know
want
if
them to
it's-
get it or not.
I just don't know if that's crossing a line.
I mean, if you take 5 out, you have it written on the back page.
But they should go to their physician if they have them. But like I said, there's a lot of kids that don't have a physician.
Well, that's what Panhandle Health
Right.
is. I mean,
Right.
and it's right here. I mean,
Right.
it's as far away as the school is. I mean, it's a small town.
If you took 5 out and you left that paragraph that was on page 2, I think you address everybody's.
Because it should be the parents' responsibility to take their kid to the doctor. Yeah. I had to take my kid. Kicking and screaming.
That's why Wisconsin has higher immunization rates, because we had immunization clinics at school.
Did they want to strike 5?
What's that?
Yeah, when we were kids, they just gave them to you, and nobody asked anybody.
So we'll table it and make some more revisions and strike 5.
Strike
That we're
5.
leaning towards.
And also the
Opt-in is, if you look at paragraph,
It is already there.
the patron's requests of the other revisions are in here. So parents are eligible, parent guardians, it's the second to last paragraph, will be required to opt in.
the patron also, she made a mention of gender affirming care, gender identity and
yes.
gender affirming care, and that is in here.
It's on the back.
Yeah.
It
Right
it
below.
is stated that all staff and contractors are prohibited.
Mhm.
The one, okay, and again, with the abortion related counseling, staff and contractors, staff/contractors are prohibited. That is also there.
Yes. Everything the person requested is in here for discussion.
They
The
are already
5
in
was
here.
the one that was on there. That was still the concern.
I don't see why that's objectionable.
Yeah.
Just me.
Well, we'll table it.
Okay, we'll table it. We'll strike 5. We'll table it and then bring it back with the updates
Okay.
in December.
Board policy 60213, parental rights.
Kenny, did you get that? I mean,
Oh, yes.
Is
okay,
that
thank you,
another?
thank you, thank you, thank you. Where are we at? Parental rights.
I know we do that.
No changes have been made. Just where you opt in. We added guardian next to parent. We reinforce that parents and guardians are the primary stakeholders to make decisions regarding the upbringing and control of their student. There's the piece with dual credit courses. If staff member notices or a change in the student's mental, emotional, or physical behavior, we notify the parent. And before we vote on it, though, if we want to change that exception of sex education, that's two different patrons that, and I had to read it. We've struggled to understand what it's trying to say, so maybe we just change the wording so it's,
Just poorly worded.
yeah,
It
it's
is
just
poorly
clearer,
worded.
easier
Yeah.
to read.
Yeah.
Before we vote on it.
So we will table this.
Table
till-
that one too.
Just change the wording so it's easier to understand.
And we did get some of the stuff in there that's required by statute, so that we're moving in the right direction. on
Yeah, we're
this.
getting close.
Okay, we'll table that one. So board policy number 100602, visitors to the school.
Tiana has an updated version.
Oh, she has an updated one?
Yeah.
I saw all the red. I didn't see that.
Yeah, because once you'll notice, we would eliminate sex offender 1102.1. Once you see this new proposed policy called visitors to schools, including sex offenders, 1006.02, as Ms. Darnold said. Thank you, Ms. Darnold. She and I spent a lot of time. She helped me revise it based on concerns from the last board meeting. And of course, we both know that her and I making all the revisions isn't enough. We need to bring it to the elected officials. We need to let the public see it. So we're bringing what we think is a pretty polished version that is both legal and fits St. Mary's values.
So question, is this
You know.
the first time this has hit
This is the third time.
the first time this
Sorry.
one has hit, everybody will be able to take a look.
It's the
Revision.
first time with all these revisions.
Okay.
They've seen it 3 times. However, we've made a lot. So
We're gonna table this.
So I think we should probably table this one too, to make sure
To get-
everybody.
Table.
give people time to see it, digest it, see if there's any more questions. I'll just go through a few things if you don't mind and really highlight, 'cause we made some major.
Okay.
And that'll answer Pete Durham's question, which I was able to get to him before he left.
Okay.
We took all the subcontractor, contractor, delivery, that's all gone. It's down to 6 pages, and it was 12 or 13. We took all that out. So really, to Ms. Donald's point, if you're a parent or guardian under certain guidelines, you can see the school. So the beginning is pretty similar to what people have seen, paragraph 1, 2, 3. We added, and if you don't mind, if I miss something, and I just want to clarify something, is it okay if I call on Ms. Darnold?
Great.
At the end of paragraph 3, such visits shall not be permitted if the duration or frequency starts to interfere with the delivery of instruction or disrupts the normal school environment. And we added, or if it's a detriment to the morals, health, or safety of students. The conduct on the school property, that pretty much stayed the same as the other visitor policy from the last.
On number 1, we're gonna add students, and it's not on this copy. There's a handful of things that didn't make this one, but I think when we were doing the revisions, we were working on maybe 2 different forms.
Yeah,
Maybe
probably.
all the revisions didn't get on one.
Okay.
Is what it's looking like.
So
Yep,
are you saying after staff member,
student.
student?
Yeah, I remember that
On
one.
number 1, injure, threaten, harass, or intimidate a staff member, a trustee, sports official, or
Mhm.
coach, or student, or any other person.
Okay.
Yes,
That would be
I
a
do
good
remember that.
addition.
Thank you. Yes.
Do what you want to the kids, but leave the adults.
Yeah.
alone.
Oh, and then on number 8, we took audio out on number 8, so it just has video. Yeah, you're right. I think we're gonna have 2 different ones.
So you don't want audio on there?
Yeah, we're gonna take that out. And that you can't video.
There's no 8 on ours. We don't have 8. We're missing page.
It's on the back.
There's no page 2. Yeah, there's no page
Oh,
2.
I have a page 2.
I don't
I
have a
have
page 2.
We're missing half.
I have a 1, a 3,
That's what that.
While you're sitting for tabling it, so.
a 5.
Find
Yeah,
page
later.
2.
Oh, you know what, Amber?
Here's page 2.
Because we're gonna table this, by the sound of it, and have some adjustments, so it's in black. Anybody else?
I didn't get it.
Susan, you're gonna have to.
Thank you. Sorry, I got it.
Tiana. Tiana. Tiana.
Here,
Beth needs it.
here. Just give her that one.
No.
That's fine.
Yeah, it just went
Okay.
copy on side.
Okay.
on
We'll
one
table
side,
that
copy
one.
not two.
So then
the-
with that said, what about this board policy 110210 sex offenders? Is that?
So what'll happen is that'll be eliminated because we included
Get all in here.
into this visitor policy.
Okay.
So what'll happen is with the registry, every 4 weeks instead of every quarter, because the new registry comes out every 4 weeks.
Right.
And then some of the processes a little more stringent, if you will.
Put in some procedures.
Yes, a registered sex offender that's a parent or guardian fills out the permission slip every year, and that's to be on file at the school site.
Mhm.
So to Ms. Darnold's point, we're working on that right now with the
We've kinda
principals.
talked about this before too.
Mhm. And then the registered sex offenders will fill out a record of visits in advance with each school site where their child might be enrolled in anticipation of what visits they would have. And once they have that permission on file and they filled out their records of visits, they would be under direct supervision, should they be on campus. When they complete the visitors of record visit to check in, and when it's time to check out, a staff member will sign off and verifying the time in and the time out. Those are some of the major changes, plus we just took everything in terms of contractors and delivery people and out.
If we do have a contractor, do we ask them if they vetted their people for this?
Yeah, by law, they're supposed to, I mean, that's where
Usually,
some of that concern was of, them good faith that their company is also following statute.
Do we get a list of contractors on premises before they get here? Is there a way we could vet them ourselves?
I don't even know how you could do that
it would be hard to do that. You'll really delay your work.
Yeah.
to each
But
employee.
usually, if you have a contractual relationship with a contractor,
Like McKinstry,
what you typically will do is have a contractual provision that's going to require them to do that, and then to be able to provide you records if you want them, that they have done those checks. And
And when they're bonded and
right, and
licensed.
then when they're bonded and licensed, that's all part of. They're going to have a procedure, and
They have to have reviews to keep those.
they can't probably. There might be a difference. I know in healthcare, there's a difference in facilities if. So schools have periods of time, we've got contractors when there are no students present. So that's, another piece of that. If they employ a sex offender, it would be that contractual provision, so they could not send anyone
correct, to the school
to the
site,
school while
Right.
students are present. So
or at all for
Yeah.
us, yeah. Yeah. And then the other point the other piece I want to point out, sorry, really quick, is the postings on page 2. So, they're at the entrance. However, I met with, our director of maintenance this morning and the principals to add more signs where there might be like a secondary main entrance like at the gymnasiums. Hebron has a second entrance that a lot of people use on there. Not again.
Oh, I got two of them.
Oh, see, that's why we took those breaks, man.
I'm gonna start
I gotta
bringing
give you some
pickle juice with
potassium.
me.
Yeah, magnesium.
Magnesium.
No, I'm gonna bring pickle juice.
You need to start carrying pickle juice.
Drink the water.
Where's the water?
Walk it off, walk it off,
Just a crack.
walk it off.
He needs a
Back
banana.
your thigh. Ooh.
So,
Gosh.
Teresa, this particular policy, the original version, I think it's important to note that ISBA did not say, bring this policy and adopt it. It was flagged that this policy needs review, and the original version of that policy goes all the way back to 2006, because I
Yes.
did a little digging on that myself.
Yes.
And so,
2006 was legal. 2013 was not.
correct, and it has, so the law changed between those two, but that
Did not.
policy originated back in
The law did not
2006.
change.
Thank you.
And ISBA did say, you need to review this because it's not good. They weren't saying adopt this policy. They were saying, a lot of you have this policy, you need to change it, take a look at it. I just think it's important to clarify that.
Can you send me your information on the law changing? 'Cause
I don't know if the law
legislative
changed. I wondered if the law changed, but the policy originated way back in 2006, not 2013.
Correct, but 2006 is drastically different than 2013's policy,
It did change,
and 2013's policy is illegal.
yes, which is why it
We're
was
bringing
like to look at and review and redo the policy.
Right, today. And yeah, and that's a hard thing, to know something wasn't up to snuff when there's over 1,100 policies. And, it took some courage to bring some of the policies that are related to parent rights forth for 3 views with the public, knowing that we had a lot of revisions to make, again, to make it legal and to make it work for St. Mary's. And so I appreciate us bringing it to light, and I appreciate Ms. Darnold's support in this and us
Right.
taking a look at it. And the best we can do at this point going forward is understanding we want our kids to be safe.
Right.
And we're putting a policy in place that we're going to be able to implement. And going forward, we're doing right. We're
Right.
making it right.
Mhm.
Because no one would want an illegal policy or sex offenders on school property. I mean,
Yeah.
no one would advocate for that.
So we're
So-
getting some more, signage. Mr. Gilmore is getting us some more signage, walking around with the principals to add it to the gymnasiums, the secondary entrances, all the fields. And we met over the phone with, Tom Carver, who's the mayor, because we use some of the city fields. And so we're also going to put those same signage around the fields that we use by the city. There we go. Moving in the right direction. We will make some of these revisions that need to be added. It gives people time to look at this before next month. Ms. Darnold?
You and I had discussed whether or not it would
Those
be
two.
prudent, no, not even those parts.
Okay.
But whether it would be prudent, because the policy on file right now is illegal.
Right,
If it would be
we did.
prudent to adopt this policy with the clause or understanding that it is not finished, and it will be brought until the board and
December.
everyone decides that, hey, this is what's right and legal, but that way we have a legal policy in force now
Yes.
instead of what's on the books now.
Thank
That's
you.
a
And we
good
can always
idea.
revise
Yeah.
that, Kurt.
Yeah.
I think that's
I agree
correct.
with that.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So we met by meeting with Mr. Gilmore this morning and meeting with the principals. We are following right now. We're in the midst of putting this policy into practice. So Ms. Donald makes a good point. Thank you. To go ahead, because we want to be efficient and thorough, go ahead and adopt it for now. Bring it back in December with some of these updates. and then re-adopt it.
So we
Right. Well,
So we wanna,
want to vote on it.
we're gonna vote on it tonight
Mhm.
but we
with the
may-
clause
With the clause.
that we will
Further
revisit it
revision.
and update it again in December with some of these other revisions that are needed.
I agree. Good idea.
Right, further revisions.
So, moving on to P, the board's
That's one.
request to administration, board development. You got anything?
Oh my God.
Oh,
Yeah, I have.
I do.
I know.
You do.
I do.
Yeah.
So, before my time, before COVID, there was talk, I understand, about, the process of changing the entry system at the high school to meet security. The other three buildings have had their entry systems updated, and, I brought it up in the spring, and things have just gotten really, really, really busy, and so many other things. I want to bring it back into our calendar of conversation, and to seriously look at a time frame as to when that entry system can be permanently modified, not just Band-Aided. Because I know it was started back before COVID, and then everything got stopped. So I just want to get it going again.
Jody, did you have something?
I was gonna add that in the meantime, there's extra surveillance cameras at that entrance, and there's a monitor in the main office for the secretaries to be viewing throughout the day.
But it's still got a long
It's-
way to go.
All right.
Step in the right
The
direction,
entire
why we
building.
address it.
You're right.
Moving on to
Second.
Q, review and consider a motion related to district
Was that it?
employee 23-24-001.
No more. Board development.
I'm gonna move
Yeah.
that we table action related to district employee 23-24-001 so that we can gather some more information.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of saying aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
We
Motion
ran out of
carries.
time on that one.
R, review and consider motion to award miscellaneous surplus item bids.
I so moved.
That's in,
Second.
Got a
okay, there
motion
we
and a
go.
second. Any further discussion? All in favor of saying aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Looking good.
Motion carries.
Looking good.
Yes, review and consider motion to adopt the most recent Idaho Special Education Manual 2018 as District Special Education Manual.
There's a little night reading.
Oh, geez. Are we
It's
get-
updated every year. There's no major changes,
It
correct?
has been updated since 2018, and that comes from the State Department.
So we're just,
Okay.
So do we want to read it?
yeah, here you go.
It is online also,
Oh, is it?
the board book.
Oh, so we have something to do this week. don't we?
I
Just the
move that
annual
we
update.
adopt the most
No
recent Idaho
parking.
special education.
reading.
So I move that we adopt the most recent Idaho Special Education Manual, which is of 2018, as our district's special education manual.
I second the motion.
Is there a motion and a second? Any
Still
further
read it.
discussion? All in favor of saying aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. T, review and consider a motion to approve the 2023-2024 school emergency and safety plan for St. Mary's Middle School.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Who's second?
Jody.
All in favor of saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Ask where that plan is, by the way.
It was
Uh,
passed around.
It got,
might be
I thought
right
it was
here.
Right in there.
Jody's holding it up probably.
There it is.
Right on.
That's right there, it's right there.
Here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Keep this.
You review and consider motion to declare a need to approve application for emergency provisional certificate for K through 8 for grades 3 and 4, Stacy Joe Maddox.
So moved.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Bless you. V, review and consider motion to approve board policy 50414,
No,
administration of medication by school personnel.
no, I'm still working on those.
I move to table that.
Table.
Board policy number 504.14, administration of medication for further review and revision.
Yeah.
Second.
On the emergency section.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. W, review and consider motion to approve board policy 50416, suicide prevention.
I recommend we approve.
Right, I move we approve board policy number 504.16, suicide prevention as presented.
I second the motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. X, review and consider motion to approve board policy 50417, students' health, physical screening and examinations.
We're
Table
tabling
it.
this.
We're gonna make some more revisions. We're gonna remove 5
Okay, I make a
and bring it
motion
back.
that we table.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Get finished saying what else.
All in favor saying aye.
No, you're.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Table's
carries.
a table.
Table.
Y, review and consider motion to approve board policy 60213, parental rights.
We're gonna change the wording so it reads easier
Okay,
and then come back in December for a vote.
Should we potentially adopt it so it's,
No, not that
no,
one.
not that one. That was the next one.
That's the next one.
The next one, not that one.
I see where you're going with that though.
Oh,
yeah,
I
same purpose is to comply with the statute.
2 down.
Since it's very similar to the current one, I think we're okay. It was just hard to read or interpret. Okay. Did you vote
Oh,
Okay,
where are we at?
I so
on parent
move.
rights? We're not.
Oh, I didn't hear you,
We
sorry.
moved to table that? No.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
moved to table policy number 602.13, parental rights for further revision and review.
Yeah, so.
Second.
got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Z, review and consider motion to approve board policy 1006.02, visitors to the schools.
This is the one
One.
we're going to adopt
And take out 5.
with the understanding that there's going to be more
Reading.
amendments to it in December.
So we're gonna table this one, right?
No, we're gonna
No,
vote on
we're
it for
gonna
adoption.
Yeah, that's right.
Adopt
And
it with further
provisions
We're
Right.
going
of
to adopt it
coming back.
again with some
Right.
more revisions in December.
Because
I'll make
it's
the motion
so-
as presented.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. AA, review and consider motion to remove board policy 1102.10, sex offenders.
We can now eliminate that because
Right.
we've included the protocols in 1006.02, visitors to the schools.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm assuming we can do all this in one motion.
Yes.
Yes. we
Okay,
can.
review and consider motion to approve food service department job descriptions. Food service assistant cook / server substitute, food services dishwasher, food services assistant cook / server, food services cashier / delivery driver, food services head cook / server, food services department supervisor.
If you look in the job description, what you'll see what it was in red, and then you see the updates
Mhm.
in the black ink, and really what it's matching their job responsibilities now, and it's matching their new salary schedule.
Thank you for doing all the work
Yeah.
to pull those job descriptions together. That's been a big project for our district. So
No
I
wonder.
move that we adopt
We are a work in progress.
the food service department job descriptions as presented.
I second.
Got a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Gotta get Jody to bed.
Give me the red.
CC, review and consider motion to adjourn.
I so move.
I second.
Got a motion and second. All in favor saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.